I'm Father Dwight Longenecker, and welcome to this fifth episode of my series, Myths, Monsters, and the Mysteries. As you can see, I'm a Catholic priest, and I'm interested in these three topics, which I think interest an awful lot of people, and the relation to the Catholic faith. In the first four episodes, I talked about myth, which could be defined as sacred narrative or a holy story, or however you want to refer to it, stories that have deeper meaning and stories that have deeper connections with our lives, no matter where they appear or where they occurred, back through history or in popular culture. Superhero stories, fantasy literature, and so forth all qualifies in my book as myth. We spent some time also talking about how Christianity is the myth that really happened. In other words, there are some stories that operate in our lives and in our culture that really took place, but they still operate on us and within us in a mythical way. Monsters are any kind of monsters that appear in fantasy movies, science fiction movies, in fairy tales, in myths, in stories of the paranormal and urban legends. There's all sorts of monsters there under the bed in our culture, in our imagination, in our minds. And these monsters are interesting to me, not only because they're scary and they open up the door to the emotions, which is a valuable gift in itself, but also because they're prevalent in every aspect of our culture in one way or another, sometimes simply in dreams or in myths or in legends, sometimes in films and fantasy literature, but sometimes in the strange interface between the so-called real material world and the invisible world. And this is where we're talking about the paranormal, and we'll talk about that in more detail as we record more of these videos in this series, Myths, Monsters, and the Mysteries. The mysteries are, from a Catholic priest's point of view, the term that we use for the seven sacraments in the Catholic Church. These rituals whereby we believe that we get in touch with God and God gets in touch with us, that he actually fills us with his grace, that is, with his power, and we make contact with him. These seven sacraments we call the mysteries or the holy mysteries. However, the term mysteries, which is what this episode is going to deal with in more detail, is also a broader term for all the kind of religious rituals that took place in the ancient world. So when we look at the mystery religions, for instance, this is an umbrella term for the ancient occult religions in the ancient world, which interfaced and connected with the myths of the ancient world. So the myths in the ancient world were not told simply as fantasy tales or fairy tales for people's entertainment. They were actually told to try to explain the workings of the world and the dynamics of a world in a pre-scientific age and with a pre-scientific worldview. And so the myths actually connected with the mystery religions. And the mystery religions were a complex network of both philosophy and ritual and myth, which combined to help people reenact and live out the myths, and to do so in a way which they believed actually benefited them and actually helped them either to attain eternal life or to maintain the agricultural cycle or to win victories over their enemies, and all sorts of reasons why they would enact the mystery religions. And to understand the mystery religions, and it's worth looking at the most famous of them, the Greek Eleusinian mysteries. Now, when I refer to the mystery religions, I'm talking about different occult religions which occurred all over the ancient world. Now, we're familiar with the ones in the ancient Middle East because Western culture comes out of the Judeo-Greco-Roman culture. People talk about it coming from Jerusalem and Athens. In other words, from the Jews and from the Greeks. These two strands come together to give us the foundation for Western culture. But of course, these mystery religions or these occult religions occur in various multitude of different forms all over the world when we look at ancient literature, when we look at ancient culture. So you will find these mystery religions occurring, of course, within ancient Hinduism, the ancient religions of China, of ancient religions of South America, of North American, Native American culture, the Northern European cultures of Scandinavia and Northern Germany. These same strains or strands, the same themes of myth and mystery religion occur in all of these places. So it's common to humanity. But to understand them, all of them, the best way is probably to look at the Eleusinian mysteries of ancient Greece, because that mystery religion kind of typifies what all the others were also doing. So the Eleusinian mysteries of ancient Greece are rooted in the myth of the corn goddess Demeter and her daughter Persephone. And Persephone was this beautiful young thing who was captivated, who was captured by the god of the underworld, Hades, and she was so pretty and lovely that he wanted her and took her down into the underworld. And her mother Demeter was grieving for her, and great god Zeus gave her permission to go into the underworld to rescue her daughter. Unfortunately, Persephone had already been fed some of the food and drink of the underworld, and if you ate and drank of the underworld, you were a prisoner of the underworld. You had to stay there. Nevertheless, Demeter rescues her daughter and brings her back to the overworld, to the world of light. But because she's eaten and drunk of the food of Hades, Persephone has to return there for like 3 or 6 months during the year. And so this myth becomes the typology or the imagery for the agricultural cycle. So when the world goes into the cold and the darkness of winter, where nothing grows and the days are short and the nights are long, this is seen as Persephone's time in the underworld every year. And when she returns again in the spring, the celebration is that she returns with light and with warmth and with abundance and fertility and so forth. Now, the mystery religion, which connects with that myth, becomes very complex, with a whole system, a whole hierarchy of priests and priestesses and torchbearers and teachers. A philosophy begins to develop along with it, and a detailed ritual which has to take place on a regular basis. And the ritual consists of the initiates. You had to be initiated into the mystery religion. That's why they're called mystery religions. They were secretive. The initiates would reenact certain elements of the Persephone Demeter myth with ceremonial processions, with opening up and showing certain sacred objects. Probably there was an element of sacrifice involved, maybe in the early days human sacrifice, which then evolves into animal sacrifice. There's complicated sort of rituals that all go with it, and a lot of them we don't know about because they remained mysterious and were never written down. So that is a kind of example of very brief and cursory example of what the mystery religions consisted of. And remember, these mystery religions there were lots of them all over the ancient world. The Dionysian mysteries were one of the most notorious, in which the initiates, through psychedelic substances, psychotropic drugs and alcohol, would get themselves into an exalted state of consciousness, along with the beating of drums and dancing, and sometimes asceticism, like cutting themselves and so forth, would get themselves into an exalted state of consciousness. And they believed that when they were in the stuff they would see, the hallucinations they would have within that exalted state of consciousness, was a participation in the invisible world, the world of gods and goddesses and angels and demons and so forth. And they had access to that invisible world through these mind-altering, mind-bending drugs and practices of meditation, asceticism, and orgiastic dancing, and sometimes sexual orgies, in order to attain a higher kind of sense of consciousness and so forth. The Mithraic mysteries had to do with the sacrifice of a bull and being baptized in the bull's blood. This came into the Roman Empire from Persia. In Egypt, there were the mysteries of Isis, and as I say, around the world, in various primitive cultures, were similar mystery religions. Now, where this links up with Christianity is of great interest to me, because St. Paul the Apostle was a very educated man, and he has this vision of Jesus Christ, and he converts to Christianity, and he weaves together in his writings, the epistles of St. Paul in the New Testament, a marvelous combination of Judaism. He was a Jew, but also he understood the Greek philosophers, and he understood the attraction of the mystery religions to the population. The mystery religions were very, very popular all across the Roman Empire during St. Paul's time. And so the Apostle Paul takes these three strands of Judaism, the mystery religions, and Greek philosophy, and he weaves them together into a new formulation of a Christian theology. He does so not so much by taking the mystery religions wholesale and Greek philosophy wholesale, but he cherry picks and takes particular images and particular ideas from the mystery religions and from Greek philosophy in order to speak the language of the people that he's talking to, who are Greeks and Romans in the Roman Empire. He acknowledged that he was apostle to the Greeks and the Romans, and he takes his Judaism and weaves together these three different strands in order to present what we understand now as New Testament theology, the theology of St. Paul. And we know this because one of the terms that he uses quite a lot in his epistles is the mystery. He says that Christianity is the mystery that was hidden from the beginning of time, but now revealed to us through the church. And so he portrays the mystery of the gospel of what Jesus Christ was doing as this kind of secret action of God in the world, which is not another mystery religion, but it is fulfilling all of the mystery religions and completing them. Some anthropologists and historians of religion in the early to mid 20th century started to see these similarities and said, "Oh, Christianity is just another mystery religion of the ancient world." This was an understandable mistake to make because they saw the similarities between Christianity and the mysteries, with a dying and rising God, with a celebration in the spring of the year which celebrated the return of life and so forth. They saw those similarities and said, "Oh, Christianity is just another mystery religion." This was a mistake, a simple mistake to make, but remember, similarities do not demand causality. Just because there's a similarity between two things doesn't mean one causes the other. It could be that one actually completes the other or fulfills the other. In a way, that is what St. Paul is saying about the relationship of Christianity to the mystery religions. And we see this taking place because in the second epistle of Peter in the New Testament, the writer actually says, "We did not come to you with cleverly made up fables or cleverly made up myths and stories when we told you about Jesus Christ." So the writers of the New Testament are saying what C.S. Lewis said when he said that Christianity is the myth that really happened. They're also saying that Christianity is the fulfillment of the mystery religions, that these mystery religions all over the world with their myths of a dying and rising God and the underworld and the overworld and life after death and all these other things were pointers or hints of what was to come. And that we see in Christianity a fulfillment or completion of those things. Now, as a Catholic priest, where we celebrate the mysteries, and we have the sacraments or the mysteries of initiation in baptism, in confirmation, and in the Eucharist, we have a sacred meal, we have baptism, we have some of these rites. I find it really kind of exciting that we're still doing this in the modern day. We're still doing this in the 21st century. Of course, we don't have drunken orgies to celebrate an exalted state of consciousness. We don't do voodoo spells to bring demons in over people. And it's not that we're doing magic, but instead we are celebrating what is a fulfillment of both Judaism and the Old Testament religion, which points forward to Christianity, but also a fulfillment of the Greek philosophy that had come to a climax and a maturation at that time in the Roman Empire, but also a fulfillment of all of these primitive religions around the world, which were striving for and searching for the truth and practicing a sacrificial system and a way to please the gods and a way to be interacting with the gods. And Christianity comes along and fulfills all of these three different strands and completes this and presents this new religion to the Roman Empire, one which fulfills the longings of mankind's religious longings and religious search. And it's no mistake, therefore, that the philosophy and the of the Greeks and the Romans and the mystery religions eventually die out because the fulfillment of them had come. Well, if you're interested in more learning more about myths and monsters and the mysteries, then I encourage you to stay tuned. I'll try to record more of these videos for YouTube. Also, come to my blog, dwightlongenecker.com, where I write about these subjects and about the Catholic faith. There's podcasts, there's other videos there. I encourage you to come and pay a visit. Remember also, if you enjoyed this video, to click on subscribe and be one of my subscribers here at YouTube. Thanks for watching.